All right, what is going on, folks? Wrestling Otaku back here on the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. And I'm back here. It is now, of course, Wednesday night, Wednesday, February the 11th of 2026. Hope y'all have had a good week so far. And it is Wednesday, so y'all should have known what that means. AEW Dynamite just wrapped up. I actually just got through watching it a few minutes ago. Very solid show once again. And of course, this upcoming Saturday, they're going to have their special big event from Australia, emanating from Sydney, Australia. That being Grand Slam Australia once again returns to the land down under. And they have a stacked card, loaded card for Saturday. It's going to be a 2.5 hour event. So can't wait for that. Several title matches have already been announced. And some really big things I believe are going to take place on that show on Saturday. And tonight's show was pretty solid. Had multiple title matches, two title changes. Kyle Fletcher once again is the TNT champion, beating of course new champion of course Tommaso Ciampa, who just won the title about a week or so prior. But now Kyle Fletcher defeats him in a very good match, very good outing, and Kyle Fletcher is once again TNT champion, and he will take that title back to his home country, and he will wrestle in front of his hometown crowd in Sydney, Australia on Saturday against Mark Briscoe in a ladder match. And then in the main event, we had Chris Statlander defending the AEW Women's World title against Tekla in a strap match. Back and forth match there. Chris Statlander got busted open, but she kept it was very physical on both ends. We thought Chris Statlander was going to get the win, but thanks to the interference from the Sisters of Sin, Tekla took advantage, hit my girl Stat with a spear and then a curb stomp, and actually got the pin for the win. So Tekla is now the new AEW Women's World Champion. Kind of bittersweet for me personally, because obviously you guys should know I love me some Chris Statlander, but holy shit, solid match, epic match, to close out the show. That was the main event match of the show. We have a new AEW Women's World Champion. Again, I personally did not want to see my girl Chris Statlander take the L here, but it is what it is. Tekla's the new champion, and we'll see where they go from here. But yeah, so really good show. Really solid, very good, very high quality show from Dynamite tonight. And we'll see if they get the some new traction, of course, from the media attention that they got courtesy of the whole fuck ice thing, from last week's main event, the whole Brody King MJF match where the crowd was chanting fuck ice, and that got national media attention. So we'll see how that reflects in the viewership, and the ratings, for the show going forward. We'll see what happens. But anyway, want to go ahead. I had to get all that out. But anyway, so bottom line is, great episode of Dynamite tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, and I'm sure all of you did as well. But anyway, so I want to go ahead and make this video to talk about something that I've been meaning to discuss for a while. And this, of course, involves another wrestling promotion, that being, of course, Total Nonstop Action, TNA, and something that happened recently that just kind of, you look at it and it's like, this is TNA in a nutshell, basically. Like, this is kind of the stuff that they do. So, if you guys don't know, TNA has been airing on Thursday nights every week since January 15th on their new home AMC. And I've been watching, I've got the chance to watch all of their AMC shows up to this point. Well, except for, no, I have gotten the chance to watch all their AMC. I'm sorry, because there was one week where I worked late, but I got home in time to watch the back end of it. But yeah, I have watched all of their AMC shows up to this point. And while the shows weren't necessarily anything that will blow you away, like quality-wise, they have been, they've had some decent stuff here and there. So I'll say that. And TNA isn't exactly in the best spot right now, even with this partnership with WWE and all that. And it is what it is on them. But yeah, I try to watch as much as I can, like in terms of wrestling. I try to cover as much as I can, because that's what I am. I'm pretty open in regards to what I watch and what I cover. Like, the more wrestling that I watch and I get the chance to cover, the more opportunities for content. So for me, the more the better. Obviously, I have a schedule to adhere to, so I can only do so much. I can only watch so much. But I try to watch as much as I can, or get it in as much as I can. So I've been getting a chance to watch these TNA shows. Something happened on last week's show, of course, almost a week ago, that I wanted to talk about here. And this kind of stems back to, again, I guess you could say the issue of TNA and how they book things, how they book talents, and so on and so forth. So, going back a little further, a couple weeks ago on Impact, you had the Feast or Fired match, right? TNA brought that back. It used to be a thing that they did regularly, and then they stopped doing it for a while. And in recent years, they started doing it again. I think like last year, the year before, they brought back the Feast or Fire concept, or the Feast or Fire match, I should say. Where basically the stipulation is there are 4 briefcases hanging from either side of the ring, and 4 wrestlers, a bunch of wrestlers will compete to grab said briefcases. And in 3 of those briefcases will be title matches for, respective titles. And then the 4th briefcase will basically be a pink slip, meaning that that individual will be fired. So it's kind of like almost like a Russian roulette type thing where you're kind of picking, you kind of choose a briefcase or grabbing a briefcase, but you don't know what's in it. You don't know if it's a title shot, what title it's for, or you don't know if it's, a pink slip or you're going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. So they had that this year a couple weeks ago. They had the Feast or Fire match. And the winners I guess you could say, the winners are the ones who got the briefcases in the Feast or Fire match were Eddie Edwards, Eric Young, Trey Miguel, and Steve Maclin. Okay, and so the reveal for the Feast or Fired was done on last week's show. Was it last week's show? Or, well, two shows ago, I should say. I think 3 weeks ago was the Feast or Fire match. 2 weeks ago was the reveal of the Feast or Fire briefcases. And then last week was basically the follow-up. Or last week's show. That last Thursday show. So it was revealed that Steve Maclin got the briefcase with the pink slip. In other words, he was fired. Kayfabe, he was fired, right? So normally, in past years, dating back to when they first introduced the Feast or Fired match, and when they first started doing that, whenever a wrestler would get a pink slip or get the briefcase with the fire, they will get the fired briefcase where they would be fired. Normally, that in essence is TNA's way of writing them off TV. Be it legitimately, whether the talent is leaving for whatever reason, or they just want to write them off TV for an amount of time before they decide to covertly bring them back or whatever. Because I think there have been cases of that. But usually, history has shown that whenever a wrestler gets the fired briefcase, they're likely gone from TNA. They're likely out of TNA, like legitimately. And that has been the case in the past. Whether it be contract, whether the contract expires, or if it's a contract situation, or TNA just releases them, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so that's pretty much what it was, or what it has been. So anyway, Steve Maclin got the fire briefcase. He received the pink slip, so he was fired from TNA, right? So afterwards, there was a lot of speculation online after this that Steve Maclin was on his way out of TNA, which isn't really far-fetched. I mean, there's a lot of talents who have been, on their way out of TNA. I mean, you look at Jake something, now known as Jake Doyle, who's in AEW now. You look at the Inspiration, they're no longer with TNA. You look at Killer Kelly, all 4 members of the Rascals, except for Trey Miguel, because he came back because a whole contract, some sort of contract fallout or whatever with AEW. So TNA's been losing talent left and right, within the last month, or ever since the beginning of the year. TNA's been losing talent left and right. So it is not out of the realm of possibility for Steve Maclin to be on that list as well. In fact, that was the rumor going around, that Steve Maclin received the briefcase because he was on his way out, right? So Steve Maclin receives the fire briefcase, and then, of course, he's shown visibly upset, and he walks off, shortly after the reveal. So then on last week's show, last Thursday, Steve Maclin appears on TV. Again, this is a full week after it was revealed that he was fired. Now, when you think that somebody is fired, generally they'll be off TV. Steve Maclin, a week after being fired, quote-unquote, receiving the fire briefcase, appears on this episode of Impact. And what does he do? He's basically backstage, and he's talking, or he's conducting an interview, which, again, I mean, it is, maybe this is, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe this is his farewell, maybe they're trying to have him do like a farewell speech or whatever before they truly write him off TV. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what they do with this. So Steve Maclin says what he says. He says, He's thankful for the opportunity that TNA gave him, yada yada yada. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is indeed a farewell speech, or they're giving him a final farewell or a send off or whatever. So then in comes TNA World Champion Santana. Santana comes into the interview, or comes into the view of the camera, and steps up to Steve Maclin, and he basically tells him that Mike Santana basically tells Steve Maclin that, hey, when I returned to TNA a year ago, you were the first one to welcome me back. You were the one who gave me the inspiration and this, that, and the third to fight and to get back at to aspire to be something in TNA once again, to aspire to be world champion, so on and so forth. And now I'm the world champion, and I just wanted to thank you and this, that, and the third. This is pretty much what Santana said to Steve Maclin. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but yeah. So he basically thanks Steve Maclin for encouraging him or welcoming him, being one of the only ones to welcome him back into the locker room, and this, that, and the third. And he's basically showing Steve Maclin respect as he is, gracefully, exiting TNA, right? And so Steve Maclin seemingly returns the favor. Santana basically closes off by saying, one day, our paths are going to cross again. And Steve Maclin says, yes, I'm sure they will. And the two of them have like a handshake, they embrace and all that. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a feel-good moment. TNA World Champion Santana is sending him off, on a positive note. So then, sure enough, Santana turns around to walk away. Steve Maclin attacks Santana from behind, beats on Santana. Santana fights back. Security comes in, separates the two. Steve Maclin is forcibly removed from the building by security. Santana, again, is visibly upset. He's yelling and this, that, and the third. So then later on in the same show, in the main event, or the main event segment, Santana walks out after the main event match. Santana comes out. He's, obviously livid, belligerent after being blindside attacked, from by Steve Maclin, who he was just giving, props to beforehand. And, he's visibly upset, and he basically calls out, Steve Maclin for a match or whatever the case may be. Now, again, and then shortly thereafter, I believe the system, with Eddie Edwards, comes out to confront Santana and whatever, there was a huge melee that happened in the main event, and it was what it was. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Steve Maclin and the facts. I'm here to talk about the whole Steve Maclin thing. Now, again, keep in mind, Steve Maclin was fired, quote unquote. He received a fire briefcase. So, by all counts, logic dictates that he would be, gracefully bowed out or, written off of TV in whatever way possible. But instead, they had Steve Maclin blindside attack the TNA World Champion, and the TNA World Champion then proceeds to go out in front of the crowd later and call out Steve Maclin to a match. The man who is supposed to be fired from the company, and the world's champion is literally challenging him and calling him out for a match. So it seems to me like, if you look at it like objectively, like just from the standpoint of you're watching, it looks to me like they're trying to set up a title feud or a title program between Santana and Steve Maclin. Which ordinarily you look at it and be like, okay, maybe that could be something. The issue with that is Steve Maclin is not supposed to be a talent there. He's supposed to be fired. If you wanted to have a title program between Santana and Steve Maclin, then why wouldn't you have Steve Maclin win or have the briefcase with the TNA World title shot? The TNA World title shot went to Eddie Edwards. Steve Maclin was fired. Yet it seems to me like TNA is trying to book a title program or a feud between Santana and Steve Maclin, a guy who's not kayfabe supposed to be there. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, what sense does this make? Like seriously, this is TNA's booking. Like, it's the most nonsensical. Like, some, You know, they do good stuff. They've had good shows, good matches, so on and so forth. Uh, more often than not. I mean, they've done some good stuff in the past. I was a long time fan of TNA, watcher of TNA. But sometimes they'll just do dumb things that you look at it, it's like, and you look at it and you say, why in the world would you do this? This is kind of one of those things for me. It's like, why in the world would you have Steve Maclin receive a fired briefcase and then shortly thereafter set up a potential world title program and feud with the champion Santana when the guy's supposed to be fired? What sense does that make? I just don't, I just don't get it. Like I don't know if I'm the only one. I think I might be the only one who's talking about this or bringing this up. Granted, I haven't watched a whole lot of videos of other people who cover TNA, which granted there aren't a whole lot of channels out there, content creators who cover wrestling who talk about TNA regularly. I mean, there are a few, but I just haven't seen any of their videos. But I don't know, like, maybe I'm the only one who's bringing this up or, like, pointing this out. Or seemingly, because I mentioned it on social media. I don't think anybody's talking about it on there either, at least on Blue Sky. But it's like, why would you do this, TNA? Seriously, why would you have a guy be fired kayfabe only to potentially set him up for a feud with your world champion? That literally makes no sense whatsoever. That'd be like having a loser leaves. That would be like having a loser leaves company match and having one wrestler lose the match and have to leave the company, and then he shows up from week to week every week afterwards. Like, it would make no sense. Like, what would be the point of having the match? Like, if you're going to have Steve Maclin be, if you were going to set up Steve Maclin for a feud with Santana, then what was the point of having him be in that Feast or Fire match in the first place and having him get the fire briefing? Like, at that point, it's like the Feast or Fire, like, there was no point in it. There was no point to it. It basically makes the Feast or Fire match, or at least the fired portion of it, seem irrelevant. It's like there was no point in doing that. And it's like, it's the little things, the little inconsistencies like this that people point out with TNA that make them kind of like, in a way is, somewhat of a laughing stock, the laughing stock of, of the IWC in a ways. That's why people, that's why you see people say LOL TNA. You see that trending. You see that hashtag every now and then, LOL TNA, because they do stuff like this. Nonsensical booking decisions like this. And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Isn't Steve Maclin supposed to be fired? Isn't he supposed to be like off TV? Why is he attacking Santana? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. I mean, we'll see where they go with it. Like, of course, tomorrow, we'll see what happens on tomorrow's episode of Impact, where they go with it. But if they seriously are setting up a title feud between Santana and Maclin, a guy who's supposed to be fired, that would be that would make the Feast or Fire match worthless. Like, it would absolutely be like there was no point in having him even be in that match or even get that briefcase. Like, it's just dumb. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense. It defeats the purpose of Feast or Fire. That's what I was trying to say. It defeats the purpose of the Feast or Fire match. And I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know, because I haven't really heard anybody else's thoughts on this. But if anybody watching this video right now has any thoughts, let me know what you think. Like, am I overreacting or do I have a valid point? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments. And but we'll see where I go from there. But I just wanted to point this out. I just wanted to point this inconsistency out of TNA in terms of the booking of this thing, because to me, it doesn't make sense. If you were going to have Steve Maclin be kayfabe fired, then why is he still on TV and in a prominent role? Like, again, doesn't make sense to me. But, what do I know? But anyway, go ahead and let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. But that's all I got to say for this video. I just had to point that out. So we'll see what happens tomorrow and going forward with TNA. But anyway, that's all I want to say for this video. So thank you guys for watching once again. Be sure to like this video. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Leave a comment, like I stated. Give me your thoughts on this situation with TNA, Steve Maclin, and this whole thing. What do you guys think? Because I'm legit curious to know what anybody watching this thinks of that whole thing. Hit me up, let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support I can get. With that being said, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. So I got more content to come very soon, more videos coming in the coming days, coming weeks, and all that as we hit the middle of February here. And so, yeah, it's going to be a short month. So yeah, February is going to go by pretty quick. So, but anyway, so you'll be seeing more content for sure. So be sure to stay tuned. Be sure to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of all my future uploads. Because if you don't, you're gonna be missing out on some good content. But anyway, that's all I gotta say for this, man. So thanks for watching once again. Till next time, Wrestling Otaku, I'm out. See you guys later. Peace.